Well, alrighty. I asked you guys for questions on the Twitter page, and you delivered. So thank you for that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. That handle's in the description box below. And if you're first time checking this channel out, or if you have in the past, you've just been stubborn, don't be so stubborn. Just smash that subscribe button, would you please? It'll make me feel pretty good about myself right now, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get into these questions. Sure, this will be fun. NoCal Vic and NoCal. I'm sure this will be glorious. After watching the 49ers' defeat of the Cardinals, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how excited are you about the Cardinals losing, and why did you choose 10? We're still in it, buddy. Vic. -10. No excitement, only dread and fear. I do not celebrate mediocrity. Apparently you and many others are perfectly happy to do so. I do not. I see the long-term damage and ramifications coming out of this. So you live in the moment that's not really a moment at all. It's just backdooring potentially your asses into a crappy 7 seed in the playoffs and getting smoked in the first round. Like, what is there to celebrate? Is that getting him a Lombardi trophy? No. Then it doesn't fucking matter. And since you keep wanting to go down this path, I told you before, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts! I'll hit you back with 4 words. President-elect Joe Biden. That's what you get. I'll hit you with 5 words that'll even send more fear and trepidation in your spine and the cockles of your soul. President-in-waiting Kamala Harris. Suck on that, Vic. Yeah, enjoy that mediocrity while it lasts. Keep trying to kick the old Schleich Daddy while he's down. See how that works out for you. Julia Montmini asked, the Bears QB that makes you more annoyed, Jay Cutler or Mitchell Trubisky? Oh, it's Cutler, and it's not even close, Julia. Cutler was there for 8 years of wasting everybody's damn time. Like, nah. And Cutler had ways about him that were really off-putting. Mitch doesn't have those. He's just not very good. Right? It is what it is. But Cutler also was not very good. And I've got to hear people talk about how he was the best quarterback in the history of the Bears organization. No, that is and always has been, said Luckman. B, just because everybody else has been a bunch of turd burglars at that position in the organization's history, just because somebody's a little less turdy, doesn't mean that they still aren't turdy. Jay Cutler was shit. So it's always going to be Cutler annoys me more. Peter Jedra. How long do you think it will take for the current Bears defense to start the decline by means of players going past their prime? I guess bad coaching can waste a group of first ballot Hall of Famers. Well, I mean, they're already starting to decline. It's the Pagano effect. You know, you've got a defense that you've paid big money to guys like Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack. You invested a top 10 pick in Roquan Smith. You've got Kyle Fuller, big contract. Eddie Jackson, big contract. Robert Quinn, big contract. And all that investment on the defensive side of the ball, their defense is middle of the road, and they had 1 Pro Bowler in Khalil Mack, and that's probably not even the right Pro Bowler from that Bears defense. So they're already on the decline. Ibrahim Rao asks, do you think that the Bears' 1985 Super Bowl season is the main reason they foolishly tried to build their team around defense and special teams and not the offense? I think in large part, yes. And to be fair, like, that's when they enjoyed their most success. So, in a way, from that perspective, it makes sense that they would always gravitate towards that. In no way, shape, or form, it connected with the reality of the modern NFL, for sure. But, yeah, like, that is absolutely an attitude that permeates through the mindset of the McCaskey family, Ted Phillips, like, Hallis Hall. Yeah, so I think that's a big reason why. At Chris K. Bills, who is the worst 0-16 team? The 2008 Lions or the 2017 Browns? I think it was the 2008 Lions by quite a good margin. If I remember correctly, their point differential was more than 100 points worse than the 2017 Browns. The Browns at least were middle of the pack in terms of defensive yards allowed. Really bad in terms of points allowed on defense. And their offense stunk, but the Lions were dead last in yards allowed, points allowed on defense, and their offense also stunk. So when I look at all those factors, like, yeah, it was the 2008 Lions. They were the worst. First is the worst. Darth Ted Phillips. Assuming the Bears beat the Jags, then get boat raced by the Cheeseheads, are Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky getting long-term extensions? I'm worried 8-8 was good enough for the McCaskies. You should be worried. Middle of the road, mediocrity the McCaskey way. By God, they'll sit there and say, well, this team fought back and they responded for Nagy. And Trubisky showed something against a couple of trashy-ass defenses, so we got to bring them all back. Oh, that's been the fear for weeks now. Continues to be the fear. And it's well-founded based off of the organization's history. Like, it would be an overwhelming upset at this point if those guys aren't all brought back, including Mitch next year. That's all I got to say about that. Travis Hill, what's your thoughts on Ryan Tannehill and how his career has played out? If I remember correctly, you had him as your QB1 in the 2012 draft. I did. Thank you for remembering, Travis. Do you think he's lived up to expectations or underperformed? I think he underperformed in Miami. I think, to me, he overperformed in Tennessee. Like, I kind of ragged on that signing, giving him that much money, and he's proven me wrong this year. And almost, ironically, kind of went back and validated what I said about him in that 2012 draft video. I did have him as my QB1. Obviously, he's not QB1 out of that draft class. That's Russell Wilson. But he's had a pretty nice career for himself now. That's for sure. Dave G, 123_456. Should the Bears bring back Cutler next? No, I'm not even finishing the question. Stop it. Stop it now. Shame on you. Kyle Garner, 92. When you first saw the Pacers and Pistons brawl in 2004, the malice in the palace, what was your reaction? Do you think the 04 Pacers had a chance to win the championship that year? No, I don't think that they did. But as far as that 2004 brawl, I knew bad things were going to come out of that and that the league was going to go really soft, which, to be fair to Stern at the time, they had to, but I think it's impacted the game in some negative ways. Like, all the physicality's gone out of the game. It's become very much a wussified league. And that's just not old, angry basketball fan yelling into the clouds. I mean, it's kind of true. Like, it's gotten worse over the past decade and a half. Memorable moment with some real long-term damaging ramifications on the product of which we'll never return from. Let's see here. Who else we got? We've got Justin Alba. Why is everyone pushing for Devontae Smith to win the Heisman when more impressive seasons by a wide receiver haven't even earned a finalist nomination? Oh, and, that's a fair point, but you're talking about, a guy that's put up big numbers on the #1 team in the country heading into the college football playoff. And, the fact that the Heisman Trophy is, even though most years it does become a de facto quarterback award, or if not a quarterback, it's a running back. Like, wide receivers have certainly been underrepresented when it comes to that award over the years. You have to look at each year in its own isolated bubble. And if he's been one of the top 4 or 5 performers at his position and what he's done this year, and he's had meaningful, significant impact on his team as a wide receiver, then I don't see why he can't be a finalist. He shouldn't win it. But he certainly should be a finalist. Scott Laynard. Who do you want to be the starting quarterback for the Bears next season? Somebody not currently on the roster, preferably somebody from the upcoming draft, which I realize more and more by the day looks increasingly unlikely that that's going to happen. I would be stunned if it's not Mitch and Foles as the top 2 guys next year. I'd be stunned at this point. And the heartbreak continues. At Keys 10, outside of Reed and Mahomes, what 3 quarterback coach combos would you believe in for the next 5 years? Yeah, that's a great question because you have a number of combinations where you might have the young QB there, but you don't have the coach. So, like Anthony Lynn's going to get fired by the Chargers, so you can't believe in the combination him and Herbert, but you hope somebody would go to the Chargers that could work with Herbert and do well. The combinations that I would believe in, though, Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson. I think that's a given. In that same division, probably Sean McVay and Jared Goff. I think that's another one. I've got to think here for a second. I think part of the qualifier here is that next 5 years, so that probably takes Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur out of the conversation. Drew Brees, Sean Payton, obviously that takes them out of the conversation. Same thing with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. So there's a lot of that. Did I really? Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. Those would probably be the ones that I would have the most faith and confidence in right now. The ones I'd be most bought into and believe in. You could maybe make a small argument for Lamar and John Harbaugh. But we'll see if both of them are still there in 5 years. But maybe you would say Baker and Kevin Stefanski. But this is only year one, so I hate to sit there and give them all the credit in the world right now. Like, I probably need to see a little bit more. Early returns in year one look really, really promising, and I look really wrong about the Stefanski hire. Dane the Funky Homo Sapien. Thoughts on Kamara's legendary night against the Vikings? Imagine being a Bears fan and actually believing that putting up 30 points against that crappy Vikings defense meant anything when the next week the Saints put up 50-something on them and Kamara scored 6 touchdowns. That's my thoughts. Awesome and historic performance for sure. Awesome, historical, once in a generation, well, technically once in a couple generations type of performance. Like, truly impressive stuff. Joseph Moran, why do people still think that the Saints are Super Bowl contenders? Because of the name recognition of Breeze. I mean, that's what I think it is. Could they get there? Sure. But I wouldn't be putting money on them at this point. George and Fulia, do you think the Browns can be last year's Titans in the playoffs with that rushing attack and great head coach? Yes, possibly. I worry a little bit that if they when they get into the playoffs, do they try to make it too much the Baker show and get away from what really got them to the dance? Maybe not having OBJ helps in that respect of not deviating from the plan. But, you know, there's certainly an argument to be made that the Browns could make a run to the AFC Championship game. I don't think that's crazy to think of at this point. Mojo_Jojo1104. Would Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, or Skip Bayless be good NBA or NFL color commentators? Maybe Shannon would work in the NFL because he actually played the sport. But those are personality type guys, like the hot takes, create controversy type of guys. I don't know that necessarily translates into being color commentators. Rick Stiles, 1985. Do you see Trevor Lawrence pulling an Eli Manning move if he's drafted by the Jets? Certainly a possibility. Could also pull it if he was drafted by the Jags. Like, a lot of it comes down to who will be the general manager in those places, who will be the next head coach in those places. Because those things will be well determined by that time. And I think that would certainly be a part of the decision-making process. I think the one thing that would prevent Trevor Lawrence from trying to make a power play move to not go to New York is the fact that it's New York. And if he can go to the Joe Namath organization and make it big, then he could really become a massive star. You know what I mean? Like, I would see it more likely that he would pull a power play to get out of Jacksonville, taking him, as opposed to the New York Jets, believe it or not. I am not suspended. Ask, which of the following pitchers do you think will make the Baseball Hall of Fame? Justin Verlander, Felix Hernandez, Zach Greinke, Max Scherzer, Cole Hamels, Jacob deGrom, Garrett Cole, John Lester. Verlander probably will get in. Scherzer, with a few more years, probably gets in. Hamels, no. DeGrom, too early to tell. Cole, too early to tell. Felix, I don't think he did enough, personally. Greinke, probably needs a few more years. So if you were asking me, like, the ones I would feel the best about, it's probably going to be Verlander 1, Scherzer 2, and it might be John Lester 3. Just because of the championships won in Boston and then coming to Chicago and really, truly kind of being the franchise player, the guy that helped really turn things around there. So Dirty J-Bands 4517, out of the top 3 quarterbacks taken in this year's draft, who do you think will have the best career and why? I'm going to default to the tools, and I'm going to say it's Herbert. I think it comes down to the tools because it's hard to project sometimes, like what the organization is going to look like and infrastructure is going to look like around these guys in 3, 5, 10 years. But right now, I feel the most confident with Herbert because he has the best set of physical tools. And those tools matter. They probably matter in today's game more than they ever have. And he's got by far the most of them. Super Eagle 100. Why do you think Carson Wentz has regressed? Also, do you think the Eagles should consider trading him in the offseason? So your second question, yes. See what you can get. You can get out from that contract. Like, go after it. Why do I think he's regressed? I think some of the injuries over the year haven't helped. I think in some cases he's trying to do too much and just making really dumb, bad decisions. And admittedly, the talent around him on offense the past couple of years has regressed. So naturally, he's going to regress. So I think it's a variety of factors there. At PFF_Rain, if Matt Nagy gets fired and Eric Bieniemy takes a head coaching job, would it be in the Chiefs' best interest to rehire a Nagy as offensive coordinator or promote somebody internally like Mike Kafka? At this point in time, I'd probably try and find the next guy and maybe promote a guy like Kafka and see what he could do. More than I would be interested if I was Andy Reid and bringing back a Nagy. But we'll see. Who knows? Altazur Caleb asks, if you were in charge of the Bulls, what are some things you would try to do to fix them? I would be trying to deal Zach LaVine. His contract's $20 million this year and next year. Like, see if he can get something back for him. I think you need to get that cancer out of that. And let me. He's not totally a cancer. Jim Boylan was the cancer. But LaVine rubs me the wrong way. And the typical type of, I'm going to score a lot of points on crappy teams, Reggie Theus type of perimeter player is the way I kind of envision and see him. Unfortunately, they can't do anything without Otto Porter. Personally, I'd just cut his ass. Like, when I look at the way he came into this season, out of shape and sloppy, like, you're already on the hook to pay him the $28 million anyways. Cut his ass. Send a message. Just get rid of him. He's not going to bring you that value back in return anyways. I would also be coming to a realization that, I probably need to prepare for life after Markkanen and life after Wendell Carter because one or both of those guys might not be the level of dude that we need out of them for being former 7th overall picks. Might be trying to potentially trade them. I'm also trying to accumulate any additional draft pick capital that I possibly can because they're not in a very good position in the long term. That's something I would like to get them to be in a better position to have. BPEF00, if Jimmy G, Carr, and Wentz are made available via trade but not cut this offseason, which teams do you think should try to trade for one or any of them? Sounds like the Colts would be very interested in Carson Wentz, or I think maybe that's just a lot of people putting that 2 and 2 together. That might not add up, but it certainly could. Jimmy G, maybe New England. Maybe they bring him back into the fold. How about that, huh? And Derek Carr, I don't think he would be put on the market at this point. Mark Whalen, 67. How dangerous do you think the Miami Dolphins could be in 2021 and beyond? Looks like we've got the right coach, right GM, and possibly the right QB. Yeah, but you've got to show faith in that young quarterback. You got to stick with him. Brian Flores has done a wonderful coaching job with that Dolphins team this year. There's no question about it. Some of the decisions he makes when it comes to the quarterback position are really boneheaded and could really potentially bite this team, this organization, in the ass in the near future that could have a long-term negative impact and consequences. I would say so far, like, it's looking good, but it all comes down to Tua. It really does. As you're talking about, potentially another 2 to 3 years of him under a much more friendly rookie contract at that position. Like, that's really your first window to contend for a championship. If Tua doesn't become that dude, then it doesn't matter. None of that other crap matters, and you're back to square one again. Benjamin Scott, J2. How far do you see the Browns going in the playoffs if they clinch? I look at the Browns, and I could certainly see them winning a playoff game, maybe 2. I think they are structured in a way that they could cause some problems in that conference. I absolutely think they can. A lot of it will depend upon matchups, but to the reference or the point that somebody brought up with an earlier question, do I think they could have something like a Titans-like run this year? Certainly think so. The skid marks aren't the skid marks anymore, and it breaks my heart. I'm also happy for them. NDL Mo Javara. I'm not delusional and or incredibly optimistic. Yes, you are, because even by what I'm sure is going to be a really, really nerdy markish question is coming. But if somehow the Bears win the Super Bowl, there we go! Do you still believe we should have just tanked? Your premise is a bullshit question. They're not winning the Super Bowl. Stop opening up these unrealistic options and expectations. It's not happening. Yes, they should have tanked. To humor you, though, if the Bears won the Super Bowl this year, then give everybody fucking extensions and I have to shut the hell up. Right? That's the name of the game. Is getting in a position where you can win the Lombardi Trophy and then win the damn Lombardi Trophy. Right? Right? But your question is based on delusional, overly optimistic logic, so accept that. The real stip, I remember you being against the Bears hiring Chris Ballard as GM around 2015. Given how he's done in Indianapolis, do you regret this? Yes and no. I think he's done well in Indy, but we'll see what happens long term with this decision at the quarterback position because that's still what's ultimately going to matter. And B, has his team won a bunch of playoff games? Have they made it to the Super Bowl? Have they hoisted a Lombardi Trophy? I think not. So what the hell is the difference? Just saying. Illogical reasoning. How would you resolve the presidential pardon problem? How limited would it be? Or would you rather it be removed entirely? No, I do not want to see it removed entirely. And unfortunately, it's one of these kind of odious things, a power that the president has. From the Clinton pardons to George W. Bush pardoning Scooter Libby, Trump and his pardoning of folks, Obama and his pardoning of some folks. Like, this is something like you could look at the pardons of probably every president in history and find some real problems and, real kind of, I scratched your back, now you need to scratch mine. Okay, so, and then they do it. So I think, how do you really restrict that power? And no, I don't want to see it taken away. Because you could also run into a case where you legitimately have people that, were screwed by the system or have served unconstitutionally long prison sentences that you need that power to pardon them or commute their sentences or whatever you want to say. So I don't know if there is anything to resolve. I think it's just one of those things that there could be good that comes out of it. And unfortunately, with every president, Democrat or Republican, you're just going to have to live with some of the shitballs that they do in terms of some of the people that they pardon. It's just the reality. But even then, that only absolves at the federal level. If there are state charges that are there, the pardon power doesn't protect against those. Mr. X, what was better? No! Not doing that question. Your premise is BS. Nope. Robert Dobick closes us out today by asking, to potentially solve the Bears QB problem once and for all, would you trade 3 number 1 picks to acquire the rights to the number 1 pick to draft Trevor Lawrence? Well, honestly, there's a part of me that says no, but I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say yes. Because at the end of the day, you have to get it right at the quarterback position. And if you feel like that guy could be that generational type of talent, you have to do whatever you can to go get him. All right? But you've also seen recent examples of teams giving up a lot to move up to get guys like RG3, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, and the results have been mixed to poor. Like, you could say, well, Goff is good. Yeah, Goff's not great, though. You know what I mean? Like, the Rams gave up quite a bit to move up to get him. The Eagles gave up quite a bit to move up to go get Wentz. Like, there's a part of me that says, no, I wouldn't. But if you could promise me that he could be that guy, and I was that damn confident that he could be, then yes, I would have to support it. Because I'm also in a position as a Bears fan of 3.5 decades where I've seen enough crappy quarterback play. I've seen enough mediocrity out of this team. I'm willing for them to do something different. Because if they don't, it's just going to be the same cycle. The whole point is to try and do different things to break up the cycle. I already sat through once as they traded away like dumb dicks 2 first-round picks to the Broncos to bring in Jay Cutler. because they were morons. So now they actually make a big move up the draft board to go get a guy like a Lawrence or a Kyle Wilson. Or Zach Wilson, excuse me. Why does he keep saying Kyle Wilson? Zach Wilson. Yeah. Like I said, I'd be a hypocrite if I said no. But I would have significant reservations based off of recent history. So thanks to all of you guys that submitted your questions for this Q&A. I enjoyed this, except for a couple of you that were being a-holes with your questions. But again, smash the subscribe button, like the video, and share it. Let everybody know far and wide that this is the video that they need inside, or whatever the hell that means. All right, I'm out.